Hello and welcome to Curated Spaces, the podcast that explores the stories behind spaces reimagining how we stay, work and play. Join me, Molly Cooper, as I sit down with founders, owners and thought leaders to hear about their journey of bringing a space to life. Great spaces shape our lives. They inspire, nurture and connect us. But most importantly, they bring us together to share life's milestones with the people who mean the most to us. So whether you're a traveller, foodie or design seeker, join us as we celebrate the power of spaces and the brilliant people behind them. It's a beautiful October morning here in Kent, and today I'm at Updown, a beautifully converted 17th century farmhouse with bright orange lounges and snug bedrooms tucked 10 minutes away from Deal on the coast. The headliner act here is the food, with a brilliant open kitchen in one of the old barns serving up hearty Italian-influenced dishes using local seasonal produce and herbs from the garden. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Ruth, who along with her husband Ollie quit the Big Smoke to bring Updown and its fantastic menu to life. Ruth, welcome to Creative Spaces. How are you doing today?
Hi, Molly. Thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for coming down to Updown to come and see it.
Not at all. It's such a pleasure. And we're here in the gorgeous orange library, is it?
Yes.
And the view of the trees outside, the sun coming through. It's the most picturesque thing.
Yeah, you've definitely chosen the best day to come down. It's been so beautiful. The last couple of weeks have been gorgeous.
I know, proper Indian summer.
This is the last few days, though.
Yeah, so I timed it incredibly well.
Yes.
So before we get into the space, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and your background and your story pre-Updown.
Sure. Well, Ollie and I have both always worked in restaurants and hotels. It's interesting because sometimes people come and stay or visit for a meal and say, and you sort of get chatting about everything. They go, "Oh, so have you done this before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I know people do it without a restaurant background, but like I'd go mad. I think like it's a lot, you know, even when you do come from that. I think." So I started working in restaurants when I was about 16. My parents ran restaurants. My dad's a chef, so I guess it was not preordained, but there was a certain kind of sort of path that was in a way kind of quite easy because it meant making really good money age 16, which was incredible. I couldn't believe that anyone would pay me to do something like that. And then I started bartending when I was at university, and then waitress sort of worked into restaurant management. Met Ollie when I was working in a restaurant, so he started cooking straight out of school, really, age 18. Kind of knew what he wanted to do. And yeah, we just sort of worked our way through restaurants in London and Hong Kong for a bit, and then back in London. But we'd always talked about doing something together, and we'd always talked about doing something out of London. And then basically on about day 3 of lockdown, in a very small flat with a very small baby in London, we were like, right, well,
this is it.
Yeah. Immediately like Googling estate agents. And my mother-in-law, Ollie's mum, Liz, had lived in Deal. She's been there for about 14 years now, I think. And so we'd been going back and forth all the time, like anytime we could, you know. And so we were looking at quite a lot of different areas. We looked at a bit in the West Country where my dad is, and a kind of a bit in Norfolk and in Sussex. And we kept coming back to this very distinct strip kind of between Canterbury and the coast. And we just sort of kept coming back here, kept looking here, and sort of realised that was where we wanted to be.
Well, that's an excellent segue into my next bit, which is let's paint a picture about where we are in the world. So we're here in Kent, like I said, 10 minutes from Deal. Do you want to give a little flavour of what kept drawing you back here?
Yeah, it's God, I guess, I mean, this very specific site where it is, it feels like it's in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's really incredible, and we're surrounded entirely by fields. But we're also about 5 minutes from an A road, so it's really great. So it's very quick to get to Canterbury or to London or up the coast. And there's so much going on this East Kent coast now. It's incredible. So Deal, you know, over the past kind of 10, 12 years, has just exploded. You know, there's like Alex and Chris who have the Rose and the Zetland Arms, which means you can actually get a really great cocktail and a good dinner. And there's somewhere great for people to stay in town, and the Frog and Scott. And there's so many beautiful interior shops on Deal High Street, like Will and Yates and Dunn and Diver and Mileage and the Saturday Market. And it's just like, you know, people come down to stay on a Friday night and they go into town on Saturday and they're like, that's it, we're moving here.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, maybe come back one more time.
Yeah,
like, come back when it rains once.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was telling you earlier about how I'm always, you know, trying to convince people that there's like a little microclimate down here. And I'm like, it never rains.
No, well, from what I've seen, it doesn't.
Right? It's great. I mean, we opened last year at the beginning of July, and it was a restaurant space that we'd got ready in like 4 weeks. We'd sort of turned it from a slightly falling down outbuilding into a restaurant, and it didn't have a roof. And we just got really lucky, and it just didn't rain.
Oh my gosh.
For about 4 months. I mean, the lawn looked pretty desperate, but it was just like, you know, it was like eating in Tuscany or something. It was incredible. Oh my gosh,
I can imagine. And you've an actual vine out there, which
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Costa del Kent.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then there's the sea. I mean, it's the most incredible stretch of coastline. It's like there is so much beach that it's never crowded. You know, it never feels like the beach, you know, like the coastline or the beach has sort of been deluged for the weekend or anything. So our kids go to nursery in town, and, you know, we can be there in 12 minutes, and then we can be at the beach 5 minutes after we pick them up.
Bliss.
Yeah, which is like, you know, the dream, right? I think.
And you compare that to the Northern Line too.
It's very different to Shepherd's Bush, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well, let's do it. Let's get into it. So it was 2 years ago now that you decided lockdown hits, or maybe slightly longer, and you think, this is it. The time has come. We've been talking about this. Let's do it. How did that feel, like taking that plunge, actually taking that first step?
You know what? I think it felt very natural. I think it was one of those things we've been talking about for so long, and then it felt quite easy.
Yeah.
And Ollie really should get all the credit for really keeping everything moving. The person that we bought this house from didn't really want to sell it. His wife did. And so there was like a year, it took a year basically. There was a lot of wrangling and back and forth and planning issues and this and that and the other. And Ollie just really kept that momentum up. We co-bought it with some of Ollie's family. So we were all looking around together, and I think we walked in here and we literally just walked into the main garden.
Yeah.
And all of us just knew.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And like, we didn't have to say anything. We just lit around in silence. And so that, I guess, just kind of made it easy, because there wasn't a lot of negotiation on our part. We just kind of, we were like, yeah, okay, that's the one.
Yeah, we found it.
Exactly. And it was the first place we'd seen where we didn't have to impose a vision onto it. We could just see where everything would fit.
Yeah.
So everywhere else we'd looked at stuff and we thought, okay, well, you know, you could probably do enough bedrooms there, and then like you could kind of put the restaurant there and maybe a bar here and whatever. And this, we walked in and we were like, okay, well,
daughters, yeah,
you know, it's just all in front of you, and we could just see it, which was very special.
Incredibly cozy and welcoming. You come down, like you say, I was on the A road and I was like, I feel like it's in the middle of the country, but I'm on quite a major road here.
Yeah.
And then you turn off, and a minute later you're like driving down this little track, and then this beautiful, like cozy little like wood cottage, it feels like, on the side of the lane, and just kind of like lures you in, and then you step inside, and boom, there's the Orange Library. And you look through to the gardens and the striped parasols, and it's just incredibly warm and welcoming, and you can feel that you've had like good bones to work with.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely, totally. Yeah. I think something that my mother-in-law always says, which is, you know, you some houses have that feel, they have the good feel, and you just know it, and then, you know, everything else, kind of all the decoration and layout and this and that, the other, you can change everything. Yeah. But if it has that feel, that's what you need. Yeah. That's what you're looking for.
And you can't buy or create or fake that.
Yeah. And it definitely, particularly kind of the long drawing room that overlooks the garden, you walk in, you're like,
yeah, this is it. This is it.
It's got it.
Yeah. And so what state was it in? Did you have to do any major renovations, or was it just a matter of finding the colours that like brought joy to you in the space and going from there?
It was I don't know. I keep saying, no, we didn't have to do that much. And then people are like, are you mad? Like, we had to rewire quite a bit and replumb quite a bit. And then upstairs, we'd had to turn one bathroom into 2 bathrooms. But beyond that, in the house, it was mostly decorative.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's too bad.
No.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't in a bad state at all. It was just, it had been decorated by someone 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
To be, private house.
Yeah, exactly.
And someone who would not have painted rooms bright orange, I think, which is fair to say. So the house itself, no, it was kind of relatively straightforward. I guess we really benefited from the fact that it took quite a long time. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we benefited from the fact it took a long time to get planning permission because we had to hold off. And I think if we'd come straight in and just done everything that we had sort of in our minds, we would have been much more pared back, and it would have been quite monochrome, and it would have been much more not kind of neutral, but just a very, very different space to the one it is now.
Yeah.
And instead we actually lived in the house for 9 or 10 months or something, and had all of that time to just play around with things. And that was the world of difference. And that's when we started really embracing the colour. And, a room like the one that we're in, when we first moved in, it was sort of like a problem room because it's north facing.
Yeah.
And it felt quite cold. And I think there was something about being here for so long that we were like, right, okay, go for it. Jump in.
Yeah.
And so once we'd chosen the colours, something like painting everything bright orange, including all of the skirting and radiators and, shelving and whatever, was pretty nerve-wracking. I was stood in the doorway for like 2 days just watching the painters.
Just watching it dry, literally.
Yeah. They were like, this is oil-based paint going on wood panelling, so we're not painting over it. And I was like, okay, cool.
Oh my gosh.
Got it. And yeah, so I think that kind of like slowing down on progress slightly was actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
And I think you do need to spend time in the space, don't you?
Yeah.
And to see how the light falls and moves and, which bits get a bit cold.
Oh my God, you can do as many mood boards and swatches and whatever as you like. But then once you're actually in something, it's a whole different story. Yeah.
And did you do the whole interiors yourself, or did you get help?
It was a sort of family effort. So Ollie and I were kind of doing the sort of groundwork, and then my amazing mother-in-law Liz helped us out with it so much. So she was sort of suggesting colours and being a kind of third pair of eyes and donating artwork and lending us things and looking at the walls here. Everything on the walls came from her, which is pretty amazing. And then my brother-in-law Jamie, who lives and works in Margate, also was kind of doing a similar role, but he also gave us loads of his amazing light sculptures, which are incredible, which we have all over the place, and artwork from him. And friends of his who are artists have lent us pieces or donated pieces. So they were both absolutely pivotal in helping out with all of that. And otherwise, I think it would look like a very different place.
Yeah, and it feels incredibly fresh. I know you said earlier you were looking at some other spaces that were a bit more like country home, and instantly just puts you a bit more like in that state of mind. Whereas here, it's fun, it's quirky. The light sculptures, Jamie's light sculptures are brilliant. They look like you're in a sweet shop or something. And then you have the incredible, like, a real mix of art from modern art, big canvases, these smaller prints, but like so much colour everywhere.
It's really interesting. I think that we probably get asked more about the art than anything else anywhere across the site. People really, really connect to it, and people try and buy pieces quite a lot, which is such a compliment. And they really are a mix. There's like stuff that my mother-in-law painted 25, 30 years ago. There's stuff that we bought at auction last year. There's stuff from local artists like the Studio Lenka that we have. So it definitely elicits a reaction from people, which is great. I was thinking about it earlier, but it's really interesting, the kind of messages that you send to people as soon as they walk through the door of any kind of hospitality establishment. So, you know, if it's a restaurant, you know, just whether or not you have tablecloths or not, or what the glassware looks like, or, you know, how close the tables are together, or, you know, what the carpet is, immediately sends people so many different messages about what to expect and about, you know, sort of what their expectations are. And in a hotel or a house like this, you've got the same, but like times 1,000.
Yeah.
It's like every little thing.
Exactly.
And I think hopefully that this gives people the idea that they can just relax and treat it as if they were staying at a friend's house, hopefully.
No, 100%. I love it. And what I particularly love is the Honesty Bar, which I think is such a lovely touch. And again, just sets that tone. You can just go down, make yourself a drink and just pop some money in a box. Like,
it's so great. And we literally, like, you don't even have to put money in, you just write it down and that's it.
Oh, fantastic.
And that's such a great piece that was made by Will Elworthy, who's a really great, amazing carpenter who does these bespoke pieces. And I think once we decided that that was going to be the bar, there's this sort of, it's this big sort of kind of old inglenook fireplace, but it's no longer connected to a chimney, as all the fireplaces in this house seem to be. And so that was just kind of the obvious place for it to go. And then Will designed this really cool kind of quite 70s bar, and that kind of dictated the rest of the room. So it all sort of came together, basically.
Yeah. And it really has in the dark, like moody blue walls and that like burst of colour with the Studio Lennox is just amazing. Yeah, I love it.
It's a great space. It gets good use, that.
Yeah, I can imagine. I imagine people have had one too many there a few times.
It's really nice. And sometimes you get people who are staying who didn't know each other and then like make friends over the Honesty Bar. And there's like a little party going in there.
Oh,
it's
that's
great.
So fun. I love that. I'm going to come back for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only thing it's missing is some really good pre-mixed cocktails, which we're working on.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, you're trying to plug some pre-mixed cocktails, please get in touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's go from there then. So from drink, let's get to food, because obviously that is at the heart of not only the space, but Kent, you're surrounded by the Garden of England, all these amazing local producers. You've got vineyards now. You've got you know, fresh seafood. So tell me how you brought this beautiful menu together.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, talk about being surrounded by places. It's just incredible, and things are popping up all the time. You know, I drove the kids to nursery a few months ago, and I was driving back and someone had planted up a vineyard.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. There's so much. We use really amazing local suppliers. So we use Wolmerston Growers for all our veg, and we use Jenkins, who has an amazing shop on the high street, for all our fish. And we get incredible bacon and sausages and everything from the Black Pig on Deal High Street. And it's just like, it's a dream to have all of that on your doorstep. It's really incredible. So Ollie's menu is really pretty Italian leaning, kind of Italian, a little bit French. And we're not really prescriptive about only using local stuff. We just use whatever's best that week, basically. And so, you know, in the middle of winter, that's probably not going to be veg from, you know, 2 fields away.
Yeah, exactly. Potatoes. And with potatoes.
A lot of cabbages. It's a really good mix, but, you know, being able to, for the bulk of the year, you know, get incredible crates of cherries and plums, and it's just incredible. And this is the first year that we've had, it's only our second year open, but it's the first time that we've had a kind of usable harvest from our new kitchen garden, which is just incredible. So our gardener, Rachel, used to be at Walmer Castle, and she did the kitchen garden there. And she came in for dinner one night, and about a year ago, I guess. And she said, oh, hi, we haven't met. I was just wondering if you'd ever thought about doing a kitchen garden. I was like, come back next week.
Yes, we have.
100%. So she's been working with Ollie and with our head chef, Aish, on just kind of trying to figure out what we can do kind of, you know, within the plot that we have. And kind of this year's been sort of slightly experimental. And then next year, I think we should have
some better ideas.
A lot to use.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. We've had more cucumbers than anyone would know what to do with. Absolutely incredible. these amazing wigwams with like 40 cucumbers on them.
Fantastic. I love a cucumber.
Yeah, I think we'll be having a lot of pickled cucumber this winter.
Delicious. So Scandi.
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah, from Italian to Scandi. Yeah. I love it.
Pivot.
And it's I'm so interested to hear about the restaurant itself, because you said it started literally in the middle of the garden. It was like a Tuscan summer in Kent.
Yeah.
And then you got a permanent home. But actually, we walked around earlier and you showed me the original barn, which was a whopper of a barn. And now it's in this sort of beautiful brick. Was it like an outbuilding, a shed?
It's an old animal shed.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, when we got here, it was just beginning to fall down. So I think like some of the oaks holding it up had literally sort of started to collapse like the week before we moved in. So everything was kind of held up with scaffolding. It's got the most amazing two vines that are growing into the restaurant from either side of the wall. And I think that they were planted probably in the early 60s, when the whole site was converted from a working farm. And when we first went to prune the vine, we looked at it and we were like, this has not been pruned in a really long time. We were like, okay, we're going to have to be quite hardcore. I think it'll come back. I think it'll be okay. And we started pruning it, and essentially the roof fell down. It was just being held up. It was just being held up by the vine. And it was like 30 pieces of broken glass that rained down from the ceiling.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh God.
We'll put the vine back.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, thank God we did prune this and realise that everything was, so we had to replace that. But basically for the first summer, there was not really a cover on anything.
Oh,
I know. We had some like canvas shades and that was pretty much it. And we just lucked out and had this incredible summer.
Yeah, in England, that is
so
a risky
beautiful.
business, isn't it?
I know. It was a bit kind of foolhardy, but it was so beautiful. And before we opened the restaurant, we'd for about probably 7 or 8 months, we did some supper clubs here kind of every couple of weeks, which was amazing. Like, it just meant that we got to know people in this kind of little pocket that we hadn't known so well. And we got to try things out in the space and play around with dishes and bring some really fun chefs down to cook with us, which was so great, which we still do now. And it was all kind of fairly experimental in a way, but really fun.
Yeah, and you had the guys from Cricket down, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yeah, so Will from Cricket came and cooked this incredible Indian feast, which we actually did it was in the winter, so we did it in that long drawing room over
gorgeous.
there. Yeah, on like 2 massive long tables, and it was incredible. It was really fun.
That's so fun. And for a London chef, get out the big smoke and just come.
Yeah.
What a lovely perk.
So great.
Brilliant.
And Will was like, I love it here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like, I want to do this. It's great. So yeah, Will came and did one before we'd opened, and Henry Harris, who's just opened Bouchon Racine, just opened last year, and Alex Jackson, who's at Noble Rot Soho. So like, really great people. I think, it's like the opposite of working in London, and I think just to get out for like 48 hours and cook over wood and coal outdoors and to be able to like walk into the garden to have a cup of coffee and talk about the menu is so different and really refreshing for people. So
I can so imagine.
They still work quite hard.
Yeah, I know. They're still chefing.
They're still cooking for like 60 or 70 people. But it does feel like a break for them, I think. I hope. Yeah.
If anyone's listening, we hope.
Yeah. They might correct me. They might be listening to this going, no, not at all. But definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. And we said, we were walking around the gardens. You showed me the kitchen gardens. And you said they've been putting a lot of work in this past year. So yeah, tell me, what are your plans for that? So I know we also have like the wild woodland around the hedge.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 7 acres here. So the potential for the site is incredible. And I think I think the bulk of it we'd really like to not do anything with, because it's so beautiful. There's this amazing woodland around the perimeter, which is so special. And you can go out there, with a glass of wine at 7 p.m. in the summer and listen to the bird song. And it's like, the most restorative thing. And that's very special. And we wouldn't ever want to mess with any of that.
No.
But stuff like the kitchen garden up in a sort of empty bit of grass feels like a really good use of space. So we're just starting to introduce more and more fruit trees to kind of turn that into more of an orchard, which is really great. So we had a lot of apples this year, and then hopefully next year we'll have apricots and plums and quinces, which would be great. And then there's quite a bit of space that was landscaped and I think had just become riddled with brambles and nettles and stuff like that, which we're kind of bringing back into a slightly more sort of usable space. So we have put in planning permission for a natural pool.
Oh, that is exciting.
Yeah, which would be amazing, up near the kind of cut flower beds, which I think would just be incredible. And I think the way that you could do it could be so beautiful, you know, with lovely like natural grasses and like just beautifully landscaped. So that is kind of next phase. And then we are going to do a couple more or 3 more bedrooms in the stable block as well.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I think that brings it to a really good number. I think it means there's still so much space for hotel guests, which is, I think, the real luxury of coming here is you can just wander around and you're never overly crowded, which is very special. People looked at the plans when we were doing this and originally said, you know, like you can turn one of the ground floor rooms into another bedroom, you know, you can get but it's so nice that you're never on top of each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special. And I think having that inside and outside is a really big part of the experience.
And actually we looked at one of the cottages earlier and so like beautifully done, and it had this huge sitting area as well, the little veranda.
And again, you know, if you wanted to, you could probably get another bedroom out of it. But I think it's just, you know, people come here for 24 hours and say they feel like they've been away for a week.
Yeah.
And I think that is, you know, that's part of what makes it so special. And I think trying to eke out every square inch isn't the right thing to do.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. And then where would you be able to do your 60-person sit-down curry night as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's been such a pleasure to chat. Before we do go, we of course have a game of Dream Spaces to play. I'm going to ask you 3 prompts and you're going to let me know which space you think of. Money's no object. You've won the lottery, cashing in that check.
Love that.
The first one is, where are you escaping away from everything? You're going to detox, disconnect.
Oh, God. I think when Ollie and I got married years and years and years and years ago, we went on honeymoon to Italy, and the first place we stayed at was, I think it's called La Minervetta, just outside Sorrento, and it's unbelievably beautiful, beautifully decorated, and it's basically perched on a cliff above the sea, and it's got its own beautiful pool, like hewn into a cliff, and then you walk down to the it's everything you want.
The Italians really know how to do like a cliff top pool, don't they?
And it definitely would not be any good for my kids.
Strictly no kids allowed.
Exactly. So yes, I would go back and spend a month there.
Absolutely stunning. Great choice.
Thank you.
Number 2, your ultimate birthday party. Where are you hosting it?
Gosh, that's a good one. I mean, it would probably be in London, I think. Yeah. I think getaways are great to be out, you know, by the sea. But I think to party, I'd want to be back in London.
Yeah.
So maybe it would be somewhere like the bar at the Connaught.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. With just unlimited martini trolleys. I can see this now that I'm talking about it. I think that is a party venue.
Martinis are having such a moment as well, aren't they?
Oh my God.
Maybe that's what you need.
Martinis have always had a moment.
I love it. And then the final one, your ultimate like bucket list, once in a lifetime trip. Where are you going, and are you staying anywhere special?
Oh God, that's such a good question. I don't know where we would stay, but our ultimate trip that Ollie and I would both always love to take is a proper like a month in Japan.
Ooh.
We did a really quick weekend there when we lived in Hong Kong. We went for my 30th and just loved it. Absolutely obsessed. And I think if you are into food, I think eating in Japan, you know, where places are so specialist and everything is at the most incredible level. And they're just doing that one thing, you know, watching like a 50-year-old apprentice, you know, frying your tempura because he's not quite on like filleting duty yet.
Exactly.
It's absolutely amazing. So I think we could probably find somewhere pretty special.
Japan, that'd be amazing. Such an incredible culture. I weirdly went as part of a school trip.
Really?
Once, and all I can remember is like the katsu. And I've never had katsu like it.
Yeah. It's just unreal. I mean, the food is just unlike anywhere I've ever been to. It's incredible.
Oh, well, I do hope you get your month in Italy and Japan.
Exactly. Thank you.
But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Molly. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Curated Spaces podcast. For more information and content around any of the spaces we feature, head to our website or Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to have new episodes delivered straight to your inbox every Wednesday. And if there's a special place in your life that you'd like to hear on the Curated Spaces podcast, please do get in touch, as we're always on the lookout for more brilliant spaces to share with the world.